All righty, ladies and gentlemen, here we go with the one and only Eddie, the Roof Whisperer, which I love. We'll get into that, why it's called the Roof Whisperer. But this is an individual who obviously needs zero introduction. People say you either walk it or you talk it. This is a guy that does both, probably knows more about commercial roofing in general than anyone I've ever met. And I think there's a very big collective group of people who would 100% agree with that. So in today's podcast, we get to explore that. So Eddie, I'm just going to go ahead. I put questions down for this one because I want to make sure I check all the boxes. Typically with other people, I just wing it. But with you, there's just so much that I know we can learn and just talk about today, which excites me.
Yeah.
I've got myself a little list of 12 questions. So could add a lot more, but I compressed it after some long conversations with myself. I was like, this is what we're going to cover today. So you've been in roofing for how long?
I think I'm going to be, I've been up on roofs since the age of 7.
Age of 7.
But working professionally in roofing since the age of 18. So about 11 years now.
11 years.
Yeah.
It is one of the most fascinating things about you when we drive around Austin. You're like, I've been on that building. I've been on that building. Yeah, we did that building. So you've done just an array of unbelievable projects. So starting at 7, what got you into roofing?
So it's a family business. My dad did roofing. Most of my uncles all do roofing. I think everybody in my family does roofing except one uncle who does concrete.
That's something. Yeah, he'll do the base, you do the top. So.
Exactly. But yeah, it was a family business. So during the summers, after schools and stuff like that, started off just being a little helper, bringing the tools here and there to my dad and the crew when they needed it. And yeah, it went on from there. Got to middle school, started doing a little bit more, and then once I graduated high school, saw my pops needed help with the business, so it just seemed like roofing was the way to go.
Yeah, I know you're someone I've always talked to who's looked at different things, but you're always just stuck with roofing. And I know it's probably because just your skill set that you have, just the knowledge towards the industry. And, there's a huge divide, for those who don't know, between residential and commercial. It's like night and day difference. A lot of people understand residential, but when it comes to commercial, I think you can agree it's an art. It's a profession. It's a skill set. It's something that you really have to understand, which we'll get into. With that being said, let's go and elaborate. What are some of your highlights that you think since, 18 years old, you're how old now?
29 now.
29. So
Yeah.
we're talking about 11 years. Is my math correct there?
Yeah.
So 11 years. Out of that 11 years, go ahead and just think, what are some of your most iconic projects that you've had the opportunity to fulfill?
Well, funny enough, you were saying, I point out roofs that we've done because we actually did the roof for this building. So this building.
The roof for this building. We're here on East 6th Street. Did this roof. It's amazing.
Yeah. So we did the roof for this one. I guess some of our biggest ones were prisons in Huntsville and stuff like that.
Yep.
Just because the type of safety that you need to go through, requirements you need to meet, and then just the security risk that plays into working in a place like that. Those have been some of our most successful. It was crazy because I got into those pretty early on in my career, so kind of you have to be straight with those. If not, things can go astray real fast.
100%.
And then one of the biggest ones that we did recently was the library right here, right off of UT. I can't remember the name of it.
The UT library?
Yeah,
Okay.
the big one, the 3-story one. It's Lyndon B Library.
Okay, so the Lyndon B Johnson Library. Tell me about that. What did y'all do on that one? What product did you use? What was the situation?
So we were removing an old modified roof. We had to. It was kind of a nightmare because we had to. The land around the building is owned by the federal government.
Oh gosh.
Or the building itself is owned by the federal government, but the land around it is owned by UT. So it was kind of a nightmare. We had to deal with UT and then deal with the federal government. And then it happened to be right when we were having that that shutdown, the government shut down for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So we had to continue on working, not knowing if we were going to get paid and when.
Oh gosh.
So, but apart from that, the logistics of we had to have an on-site crane all the time. We had to have trained riggers. Everybody had to be tie off. We had to have our own safety program in case there's these huge badass harnesses that we had to like put on
Yeah.
in case somebody fell off the side of the building. Like it could like lower them down into a place where we could secure them and stuff like that.
Is that how you exited work every day? Just a little jump off?
I wish. That'd be pretty fun though.
Don't do that. We don't do that. All right.
But I mean, yeah. So on the roof side of it, though, we were removing an old modified roof and then installing a completely tapered TPO roof on top of there. And then they have like this little dome roof that we had to do like a coating system because the TPO wasn't gonna work on there. So we did like this new age coating that has like gravel and stuff into it. It's pretty cool though.
Cool. So that's a huge job, obviously. So that just automatically displays the intellect that you have when it comes to commercial roofing. Eddie and I had the privilege to meet. He was introduced to me by one of our suppliers through SRS, and we were doing my first $1 million job, actually. It was 2 projects between San Antonio. Both were in San Antonio, flat roof systems, TPO, phenomenal. It was like in 2017 that we did that project together. Now, the cool thing about that project is it created an unbelievable relationship with us where you were working with your own, with another company, but helping us more on the sub side or as far as like scheduling, project management, development to help us better understand what we needed to do. From then we did a massive project in Corpus Christi together. We did Mattress Max House together, and we just started doing all these awesome projects to where it came down to you walked to my office one day and was talking. You just left from one company to another, and then from that company you came to Cool Roofs, which, I mean, honestly knocked my socks off. Like, what a freaking honor knowing who you are, coming in, wanting to work alongside myself, Hudson, and the brand. Tell me about that. You know, for someone of your stature, you could literally go anywhere. Why did you choose to come to Cool Roofs?
Man, it's like you said, I worked with another company, which was a pretty big company here in the Texas roofing market.
Oh, massive.
Yeah, so kind of just going in there, kind of seeing how things operated. It was a lot of sales tactics, not a lot of like relationship building. And commercial, that's what it stands on is good relationship building for companies that are going to last a long time. And I wanted to be able to grow something, like create something. And there it just seems like it was kind of stagnant and kind of like the way everything was. And the department head that I was working with didn't kind of want to expand from that. And, after talking to you, we had talked about it for a while about us working together. So I was like, I saw the opportunity. I was like, might as well take it right now and help grow something.
And we're growing it. I mean, even right now, you just left. We're doing a huge church, full metal roof system. We've got Kent Power Sports there and Kyle. The guys are rocking and rolling on, and a lot more to come, even on the luxury side. I mean, tell us about the Vinci Project that y'all did in that neighborhood. Did you crush that? I mean, such an unbelievable project. Tell me a little bit about that project in itself.
Yeah, I mean, that project was a whole month-long project. It was removing a Vinci product with a delaminated underlayment and self-adhered underlayment, and then the decking because it had like bonded to the decking completely. So it was an old IKO product. Just having some difficulties. I think they had just difficulties with that underlayment during that time of production. But removed all of that, new decking, new copper trims everywhere, new self-adhere underlayment. Shout out to Polyglass for helping us out on that.
Love them.
Yeah, and then Da Vinci right on top of that, but came out really nice home, like beautiful landscaping, so the scenery couldn't have been better for our roof.
Dude, no kidding. So you had a roof system that failed. The roof system was fine, but the underlayment was experiencing delamination. It was an IKO product.
Yeah.
So you have this beautiful home, and it just starts leaking this tar in the house, around the house. And so basically, just to reiterate what he said, came in, took off the existing roof system, took off all the decking, installed brand new decking, polyglass as an underlayment, and then a beautiful brand new Da Vinci product, which is like top of the line, the Rolls Royce of roofing. And to even elaborate on that, put copper metal for all the penetrations around the perimeter, all your metals, valleys, everything. I mean, what an unbelievable roof system. It knocked it out in 1 month.
Yeah, in a month. So it was challenging too, just getting everything they have, the way they had the home set up, getting all that done. But we got it done in a month.
So talk to me a little bit about we do these big projects, and being a master of that, there has to be a certain eye. So you call yourself the Roof Whisperer, which is like my favorite thing ever. And it was funny. The story is just real quick. Is we've been doing a lot of film to put us out there to really just exemplify what it is we can do. When I first got on film, I was super nervous. I still get nervous. But Eddie was nervous there for a little bit, a little nervous. And I show up on a job site, and I'm like, hey, you ready? He's like, yeah, let's do this. And so, typically it's like a little nervous, but out of nowhere, it's just like, what's up, guys? Roof Whisperer, or Eddie the Roof Whisperer, like, holy, where did that come from? So tell me about the Roof Whisperer. I love it.
Yeah, so the name was actually bestowed on my father first. He was like really good at finding leaks. So we had a construction company that we did a lot of leak work for, and like we've had gone to buildings where they were like, man, we've had 4 or 5 roofers up here and can't find this leak. And just through that, like, I mean, that's how I learned to find leaks, like through my dad. And then as he was bestowed that, as I started getting into it, obviously people were like, oh, he would be like, hey, you're the mini roof whisperer. So that's kind of where the name comes from. But, yeah.
Oh, so there is a true roof whisperer out there you're taking over.
The roof whisperer senior.
So do you actually talk to the roof? That's the question that raving fans probably ask.
I do. I whisper to it for us.
And the roof talks back. Does every manufacturer talk a little bit different?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
There's some disrespectful manufacturers out there.
I bet. Some that don't cooperate.
Yeah.
So when you get on these roof systems and you're looking at them, 9 times out of 10, I talked a little bit a while ago, you have your residential roofers and you have your commercial roofers. A lot of residential roofers just dream to be in commercial because it's larger products, it increases opportunity, and it increases the opportunity to get more value. However, that is the thing. You have to know what you're doing. So most companies are like, full roof replacement, do a full roof replacement, when it's not always necessary. So tell me, what does that process look like? Someone gives us a call. They've got a commercial property. You go out. You whisper to it. Just kidding. But you go out. What do you do throughout that process?
I mean, we do a full roof inspection. We check all the seams, kind of signs. Like we've talked in some previous videos about signs, what we look for depending on the roof, like TPO, cracking along the seams, and chalking of the top layer of the membrane. So we look for things like that. Our goal here at Cool Roofs, it's always been to see if we can repair the roof any way possible without having to go to a full roof replacement. But if we do have to, put a new roof on top of it, we try to either find the most cost-effective way of, if there's not a lot of leaks and we can lay another layer on top of it without having to, tear off that original roof, which is costly, we'll do that. Or coating systems. If the roof's a good candidate for a coating system, we'll do that as well.
So talk to me about the coating system. How do you know that a roof could be a good candidate, and what steps do you take in order to find that out?
So it's the initial inspection. So the biggest thing for a coating system is the original roof system has to be close to the end of its life, but not failing. So you don't have seams delaminating, specifically on modified, which we do a lot of coatings on. You don't want to have a lot of cracking and all the seams coming apart, because the coating system is dependent on what it attaches to, right? You still want that underlaying system to be in good condition. So whatever you're attaching to, the coating, what it does is just extend, fix minor leaks that they may be having, but extend that roof system past its serviceable life.
In order to do that, you have to find the proper candidate for that roof system, right?
Exactly,
so talk about a pool test and what you do in that event to make sure that we have the proper candidate that's going to be long lasting and assure the lifespan of that roof.
Yeah, so the initial inspection, like I said, we check all the seams. We do pull tests to see if it's going to adhere properly. We talk about if we're going to need a bleed blocker or some type of primer. Like for TPOs, we always use the type of primer, especially if it's chalking. It kind of controls that chalking on the TPO. And then for metal systems, unfortunately, we can't do anything over pre-finished systems.
Yep.
It's not recommended by a coating manufacturer. But if it's a galvanized roof system, we can definitely do something on top of that.
So you talk about a pool test. Kind of give a visual of what that would be.
Yeah, so we actually get a piece of fabric. We, do a little sample. We'll attach some some coating, and then embed that piece of fabric within that coating
onto the roof system.
onto the roof system. Yeah, let that dry for, I think it's about 24, 48 hours. And then we actually get a machine that comes up and then reads how, what the strength is before it actually rips off the system.
To assure it's adhering properly.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow. So taking all the proper steps to assure that whatever product we're pushing for that client, it's the proper client.
Yeah, we want to make sure the roof lasts those, those coating warranties go from 5 all the way to 20 years, depending on how thick you go on it. So we want to make sure it lasts, as well as the manufacturer who's going to be warranting it right after us. So,
because some products can't adhere to other products. So talk about that with, silicone, with acrylics. A lot of people don't understand that in the industry and they get in some trouble. So talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so acrylics are your most common. They're the good thing about acrylics is they've been around for a long time. We use acrylics on situations where we have proper water slope, just want to extend the life of a roof. And I mean, the advantage of acrylics is, 10 years down the line, you can recoat them, just pressure wash it and then recoat it and add another 10 years to that roof system, right? So you could be going through a couple of years before you have to actually do a roof replacement, which is good for the environment. But then the silicone, when we use silicone, it's mainly on areas like industrial facilities that are going to have high grease or high oils.
Yeah, food
yeah, waste,
restaurants,
yeah. Just because that silicone can handle better. Or if we have like a lot of ponding issues on that roof, silicone can handle better to ponding issues.
Yep.
Not to say we can't do an acrylic system with silicone sections, but once you do silicone, the consensus around like the manufacturers is it's still really unknown if you can recoat another silicone roof. Sometimes you have good results with it, sometimes not. Even like if you use the same product, it'll coat. Yep. So that's kind of the idea behind silicone. Is kind of a one-time thing, as we understand right now.
But silicone, forgive me if I'm wrong, you cannot adhere properly in acrylic on a silicone, correct?
Exactly.
It won't.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's always good to understand the current product that you have, doing a proper pull test just to assure that you're putting your best foot forward.
Yeah. Once you I think you could do an acrylic over a silicone, but you can't do a silicone
over an acrylic.
Over acrylic, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the downside to it.
That's science right there. Yeah. I love that. So we go up, we take a look at it. I'm a business owner. You're speaking to me, say Mr. Business Owner or commercial real estate owner, whatever it may be, my title for this conversation. Your roof is in bad condition, but we can do a preventative maintenance scope. So we walk through, you put together a full entire findings. It's a beautiful work of art of what you do, just showing all of the issues. And you put together a scope of work that then highlights how we can extend the life of that roof system.
Yeah.
Now, what comes after that once it's completed? Do you suggest yearly, bi-yearly? I think a lot of reasons why people typically have roof issues because of neglect. So being a roofing professional like yourself, what do you suggest is very important? Yearly inspections, bi-yearly, and what does that look like?
I think it really determines on the foot traffic you have on your roof, on whether that should be bi-yearly or yearly.
And explain foot traffic. That's more of like AC, like what would that be?
Yeah, so like HVAC contractors, maybe plumbers. If you're going to have a lot of people up on your roof, maybe if you have like a roof bar or some area where people congregate above a roof. Yeah. Sometimes people tend to throw things over and damage roof systems. We see that a lot with the restaurants here in Austin that have those roof bars and then below have just like a regular TPO roof. But biggest thing is preventive maintenance programs is kind of what we're talking about here. Is if it's going to be, when I say go bi-yearly, it would be like heavy foot traffic. If you have a lot of tree coverage, a lot of if you're a tenant, like if you have tenants and you're a property management company, I would say bi-yearly would be your best bet. That way you know exactly what's going on your roof. Yep. As maintenance and things go on. The bigger the building, I would also recommend like it being bi-yearly as opposed to like yearly.
And I know that we have like a commercial inspectors program, like our homeowners protection program. In the event that like a significant storm comes through, we'll be out there. We take a full scale look at the building, just because the good thing is once we complete a project, we have a file of it.
Mm-hmm.
Then a weather-related event happens. We can pull up that file and see the indifference between before and after
Yeah.
to ensure that we can attend to that.
Yeah.
So that's why I think you could probably say the most important part is to catch leaks before they're a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondarily, just to capture that documentation to then understand and I guess, as you would say, whisper to the roof.
Yeah. No, for sure. I agree with that. And yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing for prevent maintenance is to find leaks before they become a huge issue and then mess up your roof. Because then that repair becomes, not just a roof repair, but also an interior repair, drywall, and everything else.
Yeah.
And a headache with your tenants. Yeah.
Yeah, headache. We're like Advil when it comes to property management. We like to mitigate headaches and do what's right.
Exactly.
So now let's talk about your favorite product. Like when it comes to commercial roofing assemblies, what is it that you find you like to install more than anything?
TPO and metal.
TPO metal.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that. Why TPO?
TPO is what I grew up in. So when I first started with my dad, we did a lot of like mop and torch down roofs, and man, that was real roofing back in the day. Like I'm kind of blessed that I got to see that, just to really see how far
That's
the
dirty
roofing,
work.
roofing technology has come, and like how much safer it is now than having to do like hot tar and yeah, I got some horror stories about all that, but. So TPO is kind of when I started really get into roofing. It was like, we got to see it more and more, like being bid for or spec for on jobs. So I wanted to really like hone down on like, okay, this is going to be the new thing. I want to know exactly what's going on. So kind of went full force to it, educated myself on it. And, I know a lot. I know it well, and it's a good product. Like it's meant to be a lasting product.
So when we talk about TPO, there's a certain R value. Mm-hmm. What is R value? What makes up R value? Talk a little bit about that just for individuals to better understand.
Yeah, so R value is just like the thermal value of a roof, right? So most homes have like an R30, and it's from that bad insulation or roll-on insulation or sprayed-on insulation. It's like your R30 above a roof. So for commercial buildings, since they don't do spray-on insulation, we put a lot of that R value above the roof.
Yep.
So the roofer installs like the thermal insulation that's going to provide that R value, right? Standard here in Austin is R25, and then some areas R30. We're seeing that be a more common thing too.
And that's installing a polyiso board.
Yeah.
So what is polyiso?
Polyiso is just a really high density board, a 4x8 board that just has it's like high density insulation, and then it has like a backer on the front and back of it, just to keep like moisture out of it. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So we lay those down all throughout the roof, 4x8 sections, make sure they're staggered and everything to manufacturer's specifications, and then on top of that you get your TPO. So the TPO is kind of just protecting that R value is kind of the biggest thing.
So, and on TPO, for instance, talk about code for roof systems, having the ability to either have to go down to decking or if you can do an overlay and what that looks like.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So if you can do an overlay, like your roof system's still good, after the inspection.
Current roof system's still there.
Yeah.
You go out and look at it. Rather than taking it down to decking, you do what's called an overlay. So that's...
Yeah, so if we take it down to the deck and complete tear off, an overlay would be if we lay another roof system on top of that existing roof system, which is your most cost effective, and then it grandfathers you into not having to go up to R value. So like if you remove a roof here in Austin, you automatically have to go back to code, so R25, which that insulation can get pretty expensive.
And that's how much in insulation as far as inches?
Yeah, that's about 4.5 inches.
4.5 inches.
Yeah, so 2 layers of 2.2, and then it gives you about 4.5 inches. That's your minimum. And so yeah, if you tear off a roof here in Austin, you have to go back to that by code. You have to bring it back to energy efficiency.
Yeah.
So the biggest advantage is if the roof's still in a good enough age where we can lay on top of it. And that's kind of the biggest thing going back to preventive maintenance. It'll let us know like, hey, we're hitting that point where this roof's a perfect candidate for us to lay a roof on it, and then prepare you for that, down the road.
Yep.
But yeah, if we lay on top of it, obviously most cost effective. We have like fleece back TPO, which we've bid a lot in recent projects who have good roofs. Just a TPO that has like a fabric membrane behind it, and we lay that down mechanically fastened, and then 1/4 inch Dentec on the walls and adhered. That gives them a 20-year roof system on top of the existing roof system without having to pay for, insulation and having to remove that roof.
So talk about that 20-year roof system through manufacture, correct? So
Yeah.
when installing, walk through that process. What would we do, and talk about like certifications, like not just anybody can buy product from a manufacturer, slap it on, and be qualified for a warranty, correct? There's
Yeah.
steps in order to be able to do so. Like we have GAF master certification right here. What does that mean, and then what do we do in order to achieve that?
That means that we proved ourselves to GAF to be knowledgeable roof installers, the commercial roof installers.
From testing and just different things?
Yeah, and then, you have to install a certain amount of roofs before they certify you. It's a little bit harder to get GF certified, so it's one of the top 3, I would say, on manufacturers. And but yeah, what it means when you have a 20-year manufacturer warranty and what it goes through is we have to meet specific specifications that the manufacturers have tested in their labs, and they're like, okay, this is, if you install the roof this way, it's guaranteed to last these 20 years, right? So when we install a roof, we have to install it to the same specifications. So fastening patterns, so how far apart we put the screws on the insulation board, how many screws we put down, or how we adhere it if we're going to adhere it over a concrete deck. And then they have different specifications for concrete decks, metal decks, wood decks, and all that. So it's the warranty makes sure that the contractor who installed your roof did it to the specifications that were tested in the lab, and so that roof will last those 20 years. That's kind of what the biggest thing means to be certified, right? And then what the manufacturer does is when we do a roof installation and we provide them with a manufacturer's warranty, they actually send out their inspector to inspect our roof and make sure that it was actually installed to those specifications. And if it's not, obviously they won't even warranty the roof. You have an issue there. And or if there's like little minor remedial things that need to be taken care of, they'll point them out right then and there. You do them, send a report showing that they've been done, and then you get a manufacturer's warranty. So that manufacturer's warranty goes from 5 to 20 years as well. And what that means is the first 2 years, obviously us, the roofer, the original installer, will cover that roof. And then that 20-year warranty runs congruent with that. Those 2 years run congruent with that 20-year warranty. After that, those 2 years, if you ever have a leak resulting in faulty installation or the material just being faulty, they'll cover you. Like a no dollar. What that NDL stands for behind that is no dollar limit. So
So they call it an NDL warranty.
NDL warranty, exactly.
Yep.
So 20-year NDL, 15-year, 10-year NDLs. Yeah. So that means no dollar limit, which means if the material goes up, the labor goes up, they're going to match it to that current, inflation rate.
Yeah, and I love that. It separates the boys between the men. So you come out to a project, and by showing certs of certification like the one that we have here, it exemplifies your knowledge, your understanding of how to install things, and then it's us working together as a collective with the manufacturer using their product on this roof system. They assure that it's done properly, and then a warranty is handled over as far as confirmation and protection to come for that business owner.
Yeah, I mean, it's protection for everybody around, right? Like, it protects us to install it properly because we know it's been tested in the lab, protects the owner. So it's just like another way of like checks and balances, right? Everybody's checking to make sure that the roof system is, everybody who is there to make sure that roof system is just checking to make sure everything's installed properly.
So there's one thing that I want to talk about too, just on the flat roof system right now in terms of education. Talk about a core sample. What's a core sample?
So a core sample is something we perform. It's just a cut in the existing roof system just to see what's there, right? To see how thick the insulation is. If we can't see, from below what the decking is, to see what type of decking we're dealing with. So yeah, it's just to see kind of like a snapshot of like the whole roof system all the way down to the deck. So it just lets us know what's there.
So you would say it's a deep dive to better understand, to create the story of understanding what we need to do to properly meet manufacturer specs upon our install. Do we have to take it down?
Yeah.
Is it, something that we can do an overlay? What do we need to do as far as our screws? How big do the screws need to be to properly adhere? So it just checks all the boxes. And you really don't know anything until you perform that core sample, correct?
Exactly, yeah. And then it lets us know too, like if we see a lot of moisture, we may do different core samples in different areas to see if that moisture is everywhere or just specific area, right? So we may be able to just tear that area off and then leave the rest of it and then just remediate those wet areas. Another thing it lets us know with a core sample is, back to manufacturer specifications, you can't have more than 2 roof systems on a building. So that's code, that's fire code, that's manufacturer's code, building code, everything.
Yep.
And the reason for that is think it goes back to like a fire safety issue, and then just weight itself.
Weight, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So once you have one roof system, you can't lay another roof system, or you can't two roof systems on top of it. Yeah, exactly. So you can only have two. And that's it.
So in the event someone comes out, we redo a roof, we do an overlay, now there's two roof systems.
Yeah.
Something happens to that roof system, we have to take that roof system down to the decking, meet that R value that we were talking about of 4.4 inches, going back with another roof install. So here's another great question when it comes to flat roofs that a lot of people don't think about. We've got penetrations. We've got skylights. We've got AC units. We've got different plumbing. We've got gas lines. We've got all kinds of stuff. So what's kind of your game plan when seeing all that? What are some things that you have to do to properly adhere? What's a curb? Talk stuff like that to really paint that picture.
Yeah, so curbs and stuff like that. So we have curbs, plumbing stacks. That's what you'll see. Maybe curbs go for different things. Like you have your HVAC units, your exhaust vents that bring out all the grease from inside if there's a restaurant below. And then you have sometimes like for hospital, real specific specialty units and stuff like that. So the biggest thing, like when we look at those areas, just to make sure those are our highest leak points, right? So we want to make sure that when we are checking the roof after it's been installed, that we're checking the seams in those areas, specifically around the corners where we hand weld. We don't use the automatic welder to run the seams there. So that's kind of our biggest things, is just our checks and balances. Is afterwards we make sure somebody goes around before the end of the day, before we're out of the, before anybody gets off the roof is checked, and then we make sure those areas are taken care of. And that's kind of the first things we look for too when we go up and inspecting a roof, is those areas. Those tend to be your most critical areas where,
Yeah, I mean, you said it earlier. You said any high trafficability, you have people, ACs, it's hot, they're trying to get the work done, they're being a little careless, they can puncture, like we're doing Kent Power Sports right now in Kyle, and there was 25 punctures the first time. Then we power washed the whole system to see how much more. It's a really good way of understanding punctures, and you found an additional 30. So I mean, it's just crazy when you neglect a roof system and there's a lot of foot traffic, how much can be caused throughout that situation.
And it kind of ruins it for you, right? Because then later if you want to do an overlay, you can't, because now you have too much moisture in your system. So kind of another shout to the big importance of preventive maintenance. But and then big things like that is what we look for. Another thing we look for, and that you'll see very common, is either scuppers or drains, right? That's another huge issue.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so sometimes as the roof ages, all those sealants around the scupper, if it's like a modified roof or TPO roof, you have water block and things like that, start to crack and age, and you want to replace those over time. Scuppers, seams start to delaminate. Sometimes we see a lot too. Scuppers aren't flashed properly. So that's kind of like the biggest things that we run into, and kind of you'll expect to see up on a roof system. But what we look for, when we install a roof, those are our biggest main points, right? Like when we're installing a roof system, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to install a roof system, those are my biggest things. Like I make sure that I either get up there or somebody I trust gets up there to check all those specific locations. Like our boots, a little thing we do there when we install our boots is we always do a target patch, so like a 2x2 or 2 foot by 2 foot patch, and then your boot on top of it. And then I've gotten my guys into a habit of installing sealant before they put the boot inside around the boot too. So if water were ever to get under that boot, I can guarantee there's some sealant back there though to give me a little bit more time before for the next preventive maintenance inspection or whatever. You got to count for human error kind of a lot in this stuff too. So
100%. I mean, these roof systems we do are massive. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. You're checking a lot of boxes, you're following manufacturer specs, and you're just getting it done. So we talked a lot TPO. You said your other favorite one was metal. Talk to me about metal.
Man, I like metal. You can do a lot of things. It looks pretty. It's like an aesthetically pleasing material. So long life. I mean, you can get 40, 50 years out of a metal roof. And then just the architectural metal you get into, like ACM panels, and then like the finished product. It takes a lot more. It's a lot more of a skilled work, I would say. Like
it's an art.
Yeah, even the installers have to know what they're doing. And then you get into real like crazy metal designs and things like that. So it's kind of like the art, I guess, in the roofing industry. I would say, me personally.
So you love standing seam.
Oh, I love standing seam. It's a good product, man. No exposed fasteners, like 40-year plus pre-finished warranties, and just the metal itself is going to last like 50, 60 years if you take care of it properly.
So the church we're doing right now, current roof system, exposed fasteners, going back with a beautiful matte black standing seam, it's just gonna pop. But talk about the difference in our panel with exposed fasteners. What does that mean? And then what does a standing seam roof system look like? How it's installed and what differentiates between the two?
So the biggest difference between the two is going to be the style, and then the exposed and non-exposed fasteners. Like what you said, it has an exposed ARP panel system right now. So that roof is going to start having issues as soon as those screws, exposed screws, that wash around that grommet.
So when looking up at the roof system, you see screws that are holding down the roof system itself. That's an exposed fastener.
Exactly, yeah. So you'll see those every so often installed that's holding down the actual system.
Yep.
And you need, so many to hold it down against wind uplift. So you have quite a few screws up there.
And then down the road, we get called for leak points. And typically those screws, also the exposed fasteners, is typically a leak point due to what reason?
So those screws, metal expands and contracts and moves. So those over time start to move around. The little washer around them starts to give out just because of aging and everything. So once water starts getting in there, it's real hard to then come back and do another screw, right? Because now you have, if it's a wood deck, you have a rot around that whole screw hole. So that's kind of the biggest issues we see around those when we get called out for those. It's just those screws popping out. And that's kind of a lot of people don't pay attention to that. So by the time they catch it,
it's done.
It's done, kind of. Yeah, we gotta have to, unless it's a metal building with purlins where we can just put new screws and make sure we can guarantee that new washer's gonna still around that hole. It's a wood deck. It's kind of done system. Yeah.
So then that's an exposed. Now let's talk about standing seam and why it's just cream of the crop.
So standing seam you hold it down either through the metal panel itself could come with there's different styles of standing seam, right? You have a snap lock, double lock, mechanically locked and stuff like that, which is just like a double lock system. But they all have it snaps together. Your screws are actually concealed within the next panel over that you overlap, right? So you use these clips on some of them, and then majority of them use clips. You fasten that down. That's what holds down the actual panel. And then the second panel continuing comes over that, covers everything, make sure that you don't have no exposed, no exposed fasteners, hooks on properly. So, and then you hook it on around your entire perimeter. So it's completely,
one fastened roof system, no exposed fasteners.
No exposed fasteners, yeah, and they'll last you a long, long time.
Yeah, and then in the event you typically got problems with that, it might just be like a penetration point, like a pipe jack and whatnot.
Exactly, yeah. And then most of the time it's just, a small preventive maintenance where you just have to go put new sealant around those pipe jacks and that's it. But and that may be, 15, 20 years down the line before you even have that issue.
Yeah, it's been a conversation we've had, the way that insurance is increasing deductibles the way that they are. A lot of people are going towards the class 4 impact resistant shingles, which if you look at the price point there and the price point of metal, especially what we're about to do in metal, it does make more sense for a homeowner to probably go ahead and make the investment for a metal roof system due to the warranties, due to the lifespan, due to just the product that it is, because shingle pricing is just getting ridiculous. I mean, they had an update again. I say August 1st? Today. Today they had a shingle update again where it increases $16, $17, so $1.70 a square foot, which doesn't seem like a lot, but $16 a square. So that'd be your typical roof is up now almost $400, which is nuts, and it's going to continue to go up. So in the event that a homeowner is making a decision, do I want to go this route or this route? I mean, you put a brand new roof on, we get a large impact hail that comes through, you're just going to be playing this game over and over. So do you think it'd be a really good idea for people to start really looking into metal now that it's becoming in somewhat of a similar ballpark game?
Yeah, I would always say look into metal. I mean, if we're being honest, the extended warranties that shingles are giving is to try to compete with metal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole point of the shingle game is to try to get as close to the metal coverage, as good as metal without the cost. But now that the cost is shrinking and these shingle manufacturers, stuff starts getting more and more expensive and we have these increases, it just makes sense to do metal. I mean, if a hail hits a metal roof, the system's still gonna last. Might be a little cosmetic issues here and there, but the roof system's gonna last. You don't have to worry about that. As opposed to a shingle roof, if your insurance doesn't cover it, then you're kind of wondering like, man, is the system gonna have issues later on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we've seen some crazy hail lately, and thankfully a lot of our clients are going metal or they're going a specialty product like Vinci, which we'll talk about soon. But real quick, talk about oil canning. I've heard a lot about that. Well, we know a lot about that, but clients hear about it and they're like, well, I don't want metal because I hear of a thing called oil canning. What does that look like?
So oil canning is just kind of waves you get into the metal as it, when you set a flat sheet of metal on something that's unleveled, you're going to get a little bit of waves in there as it conforms to or molds to the shape of whatever it's laying on. So the way we combat oil canning is striations. We try to do a striation. We try to inform the customer about why it does it. It's not something that affects the metal roof system itself. It's just more of a cosmetics thing than anything else, right?
Yep.
But some customers just don't like to see it.
And what's a striation?
A striation is just like a support rib that we put in the panels. So
when you run the panels,
Yeah.
you manage what striation you want. So basically a cosmetic appeal that's built into the panel itself.
Yeah, so it's a cosmetic structural thing that we do to the panel as it's being run through the roll former. And then, you can do anywhere between 1 to 2 to all the way up to 4 striations and stuff like that. There's different striation patterns you can do too. But yeah, it's just to combat oil canning. Now, if you really, really want flat panels, what we do here at Cool Roofs is we also run a strip behind the panel before we install it. If we run flat panels of a backer rod, and we've seen good results with that. It doesn't completely stop it as good as striations would, but we try to mitigate that issue as best as we can.
So one of my questions on here is talking about, we talked about shingle, we talked about metal, we talked about TPO. One of the projects that we do really good at is, luxury.
Mm-hmm.
And luxury is Brava, it's Da Vinci. We've done a lot of Da Vinci. Mattress Max house was Da Vinci in Lago Vista. We did a beautiful home there in Austin just here recently. Da Vinci, the product we talked about earlier, our project. Brava in San Antonio and a few more on the horizon. That's another upgraded product. Tell me a little about Da Vinci and what you know.
So, really good product, good wind ratings, good fire ratings too, because it's a like synthetic product. So the fire ratings are really good there too, and good hail impact. Almost all like synthetic materials have a class 4 hail impact rating. So hold up really good to hail, and it's they're really good option if you have like tile or you want some type of slate or cedar shake and stuff like that. If you're trying to match that without the cost, these products are really good.
I mean, it's capital luxury with an L.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, but it just turns out to be an iconic roof system. Yeah. Now, when installing this, leadership is everything here at Cool Roofs, and your leadership is just second. It's unbelievable. Because I speak on this is when you do project management, you're not only managing the expectations of a GC we're working with, you're not only managing the expectations of a homeowner, but then you're managing the expectations of the crews and then your personal life all around it. So there's a lot that goes on to really create a project from start to finish. Anyone can go sell a project, but to really knock it out of the park from start to finish, assuring it gets done the right way, it takes a lot. So tell me what your day-to-day looks like in terms of the project management and your leadership towards that.
It's a lot of preparation. You know, it's kind of you want to prepare before something happens and expect that something's going to happen.
100%.
It's construction, right? So it's just, for me, a lot of it is preparing for the next day, like getting ready of like what may happen. What if something happens, kind of having that game plan together. Conversations I need to have either with the GC or the homeowner or the crew. If I'm seeing like the crew's kind of like, man, this project kind of dragging on a bit, seeing how we can, keep that motivation up and stuff like that. And then just giving actual expectations to the homeowners and the construction company if there's one involved, right? Just making sure everybody has the proper expectations of what's being asked, and then that we have what we need to get those things done in that manner. But it's just preparing for things like that and knowing that, if something happens, we need to have a game plan. To get it
Because
get it
every
done.
job site's flawless, right? Never any issues.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's construction. I mean, that's my favorite thing. I realize that within the world of construction, it's all about communication and then
Hmm.
setting proper expectations and then handling it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in the event that you're able to do so, it just creates that purity of understanding. Like, hey, what are we doing here? What is the proper expectation? How long is this job going to take? What's the day to day going to look like? Because there's a ton of moving parts, especially on that beautiful home that y'all just did. I mean, that was a messy project. You literally have oil seeping on decking, and it's hot outside, and the oil's getting everywhere, and you're trying to keep it clean and not get it on the house. Like, you were literally checking so many boxes to assure perfection on that job.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes it just takes that. It's understanding like it's just being on site. What it takes sometimes too, right? Like making sure you're there to make sure. Sometimes your crews get tired, things start to happen, so you want to be there just to be like, hey guys, let's pay attention because if we and it's just having a conversation with them sometimes about like if we slack here, it's gonna create more work, and then it's gonna make it worse, right? So,
Yeah.
and or if I'm seeing something, I'm like, man, we could do this a lot better, a lot safer than figuring that out and how to do it quicker, right? Because their job is to get it installed. My job is to make sure they get it installed safely and efficiently, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting them to sit there and be like, okay, you figure out how to install, how to make this more efficient. My thing is to make it efficient, as safe as possible for them, and then you just guarantee that they do proper work, right?
Yeah.
A good install. So
And it's phenomenal. Like, you're the true definition of a roofing specialist. And it's like what we always tell our guys here. It's like, hey, we develop roofing specialists who develop roofing specialists. And how we do that is by the progression of knowledge fulfilled every day and taking that knowledge and applying it. And for someone like you, it's like it's leadership with knowledge, with productivity. I mean, it just hits every adjective in the book towards success. But like, people look at roofing and they're like, oh, that's cool. But like, there's a lot that goes into it to assure that it's done the right way. And
yeah,
for you being able to really see that and be able to whisper it to the roof, it's just, but like, really do that. I mean, the knowledge is there. And so I know we have to wrap this thing up here in 1 minute, but what's one thing that you'd like to kind of just discuss that might be something that's not talked about a lot, or something that's on your heart right now that you really just want to put out there? If it's an educational piece, or maybe something that you want to say to someone who's getting new into roofing, or just take the next 1 to 2 minutes just for your time.
man, if you're getting into roofing, specifically commercial, or you're like a residential salesperson who wants to get into roofing, I'd say educate yourself.
Yeah.
And then it matters a lot in sales because it plays a huge aspect in this way of like the more educated you are about different products and how they install, the more solutions you'll have for your customers, right?
Yep.
Commercial roofing is a solution based business. Like
Yep.
you want to make sure you offer you have the most amount of solutions for your customer because they're gonna, budgets are different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be my biggest thing is educate yourself and just take it slow. Start off with we are seeing a lot of TPO in residential now, so try to find one of those first. Kind of get your feet wet with a residential TPO roof and how it's installed, and then move up from repairs. I would say do repairs first before you go do into a big roof system. But yeah, education is key.
Oh yeah, and you said solutions. It's calculated solutions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Recalculate, just making sure, because the difference between residential and commercial, there's liability in everything. Now, that's one thing about us is like our insurance is second to none. We pay an astronomical amount in insurance to be able to work with some of these large companies, large projects and whatnot, because there is liability involved. And I guess you could say this as well real quick. How much have you seen commercial make or break a company?
It could be one project.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could lose everything in a project.
Because it's not budgeted properly, it's not calculated properly, it's not following manufacturer specs, warranties not achieved, issues. Like, there's a lot that goes. And so I know a lot of people within roofing want to jump into that commercial sector. But like you said, hey, I would definitely crawl, walk, run. Not just because, of course, you probably have the confidence, you have the drive in order to do it, but you got to make sure you're dotting all your I's, crossing all your T's to deliver that proper product, because the liability is a real thing. And like you said, it can make you or break you just on one project.
Yeah. What I'll say, it's not about just getting the roof installed and it's over. It's like making sure that roof is going to last those 10, 15 years.
Yep.
Because it builds a good relationship with your manufacturer, 20 years. Builds a good relationship with your manufacturer. They trust you, and the customer will trust you. If you put on a roof and you get it done however you can, but it's leaking within the first 2 years, and you didn't really put on a roof, like, yeah. So,
Yeah, it's not how fast you do it, it's how you do it and how long it's going to last.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Longevity is the key here.
Yeah. New company, Longevity Roofing. No. Well, this has been amazing. Eddie the Roof Whisperer, everyone. Just, again, this podcast has probably been our number one just because it's full of so much knowledge. One of the goals we're going to put it out there is we're really working hard to just build a channel of all commercial education just to help you, those in the industry, those in our organization, understand the walk, help you get to crawl, and then hopefully through the education and value we can provide, get you running. And so the commercial roofing space needs people doing it the right way. It's an awesome opportunity, and Eddie, you're the best to do it. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Stay tuned. If you can, subscribe to our channel. Just click the button below. We're going to be coming out with a lot more of Eddie, the Roof Whisperer.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, brother. Come on.